Hey everyone, the market continues roaring higher. We are actually up over 3.5% since the low yesterday, and you can just see this rocket ship higher that the market's been on. Taking a look at the gamma exposure levels here on the S&P 500, we noticed that we ran right into this call wall here at 5,600, and this was something we talked about in yesterday's video. The other day we broke through the zero GEX level, which has been hovering around the 5,500 strike. We broke through that yesterday, and today we had the continuation rally right into the 5,600 strike. Volume coming in large amounts here at the 5,600. Not seeing a whole lot of volume above that, though, for today's trading activity. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of flat or retracing price tomorrow. But looking ahead into next week, we see large gamma exposure concentrations all the way up to the 5750 strike. We are strongly in positive gamma exposure territory. And so this basically just tells us that as these gamma exposure concentrations keep growing here at the 5700 strike and the 5750 strike, these are higher probability targets as those concentrations grow, that those will be our next resistance points in the market. So Sean, I know we were talking a little bit earlier about some of the technicals that you were looking at on the S&P and the Qs. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. Good points on the total gamma increasing to a bullish area. I wanted to point out the Keltner channels, which have turned sharply up. You can see here the upper channel is pointing straight up in the bottom channel. And also the price candle for today opened and closed above the middle channel. So that, these are all signs that, in my experience and observation, have typically meant a continued bullish move. But thanks to gamma, being part of this picture, it would not surprise me at all, since we know that this is a ceiling that's not going to appear on a chart, but we know it's a factor of market positioning. Even if we're up tomorrow, we're probably due for a pullback sometime before VIX expiration next Wednesday. That might take us back to this rising middle Keltner channel. That's speculative, but I'm just trying to point out that we're going to be looking for the areas that will prove to be support as this rally has its points where it pauses.
Thanks, Sean. Let's take a look at the overall performance in the market by sector. You can see the leaders are NVIDIA, Broadcom, Meta, Oracle, Google. And so it's really the Mag 7 / mega cap tech trade that is really leading the market. Everything that's been leading the market earlier this year on this rebound continues leading the market higher today. If we take a look at the performance over the past week, we can see that some of these names have actually come back. NVIDIA coming back 13%, most of that over the last 2 days. Meta and Amazon and Microsoft, all of these names now over the past week, as far as performance go, are back in the green. And let's just take a look at the volatility index real quick. The VIX continuing lower, down 3.5% today. Basically, we've been going straight down since the beginning of the week, all the way from the 23.5 level, now closing just around the 17 level here. So big move, huge drop in volatility. Sean, I know you were going to tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in the VIX as well.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on the VIX, as you have too, I know, and we've been talking about it because we had such volatility with both the high and now the recent low with the VIX. But I did want to bring attention to VIX expiration being Wednesday. VIX expiration is a time that is associated with trend changes and sometimes some of our biggest crashes have happened following VIX expiration. If you look at kind of how we're positioned right now for Wednesday, we actually have this big negative gamma cluster is actually at 15, and we have another big negative one at 16. Sometimes option expiration results in the maximum pain point being reached, and I find it interesting that we actually still have a signal here that there might be some volatility between now and Wednesday. So I don't know. I would expect this to narrow by the time we get to Wednesday morning, but for now, I think we need to be open to the possibility of some sort of a market pullback and potentially the VIX climbing back before we see where we settle on Wednesday.
Yeah, for sure. Something to pay attention to. Thanks for that, Sean. I want to turn to NVIDIA. NVIDIA tagged the 120 strike today. Really nice move up from 102 just a couple of days ago. 20%, if you can imagine. I mean, this is one of the largest companies in the world, and it's swinging 20% like nobody's business, with no problem at all. We had mentioned just yesterday that there was this big call wall that had been breached at the 110 strike. And this was something we posted right after the open yesterday, 9:44 a.m. We posted this analysis of NVIDIA, notating that NVIDIA had broken through the call wall at the 110 level, and we were seeing large gamma exposure concentration all the way up to the 120 strike. Didn't think that was going to hit today, but NVIDIA kept moving higher. And here we are sitting right below the 120 level. And so, like Sean was mentioning earlier, wouldn't be surprising to see a little bit of a pullback, perhaps into the 118 strike or even the 117 strike. But this 120 remains the largest gamma exposure concentration. If we get over this level, I suspect the 125 strike will be the next target, potentially into September options expiration. That's something that we'll be watching for as a possibility. So I'm looking for another rally above this 120 strike and potentially making a move to the 125. So we'll be eyeing that in tomorrow's trading session.
Yeah, so Anthony, with this theme of the market potentially rallying further, I wanted to look at IWM, which has been sort of a laggard, even though, a month or two ago, we identified that really IWM looked more bullish than other indices going into year end. So it's been kind of a late comer to this rally, with I think really the Dow actually appearing to be the most bullish, and then the S&P and NASDAQ eventually following. So all of those other indices are above their middle Keltner channels, and IWM today just barely was able to retest that middle Keltner channel and then failed. It's holding the whole moving average. If the markets continue to rally, I could see IWM playing catch up, and potentially rallying above this middle channel, which really would be, a move toward the 220 plus range.
Next, I want to talk about GLD. GLD breaking out finally after weeks and weeks of trading just in this 230 to 233 range. Finally breaking out today up through the 235 strike. That's something we've been waiting for quite a while. We had sold the 230, 227 put credit spread expiring September 20th. So we're looking to close that out here on this big move up. And honestly, I'm going to be looking for a re-entry point on GLD, and I'll tell you why. Volume is coming in big today at this 240 strike. We already have gamma exposure building at the 240. Normally, we see these dealer cluster zones as potential, at least pauses or reversal zones as dealer selling pressure comes in the underlying security. We'll oftentimes see a pullback from these zones. But the times where the probability for a continuation move is higher is when you see these exact setups. Large gamma exposure concentrations, like we see here at the 240 strike, coupled with increasing volume at that same strike or higher. We know that that means market participants are building additional positions at these higher strikes. And so we may see a little bit of consolidation or just a slight pullback, but ultimately it looks like market participants are expecting higher prices. And so we're going to close out our existing position, lock in those profits, and we'll probably reinstate a new position probably into the October expiration. So we're going to continue the conversation over in our community Discord. I'll put a link down in the description below. Come on in, say hi, check it out. We'd love for you guys to join us in there. Also, if you guys are interested in utilizing our gamma exposure data and analytics, head over to geeksoffinance.com. You can become a member. You'll also get access to our Geek University course, which is a 5-hour option strategy, volatility, gamma exposure, and our overall trading approach. I'll put a link in the description below. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.